Welcome everybody to our first look at the Rode NT USB Mini. A little bit of a mouthful. You're hearing it right now, so this is the NT USB Mini, and we're going to take a closer look at it, but I want to say a few things before we get started here. One thing I have not done yet is I'm recording not with a normal webcam. This is a Panasonic GH5, and that goes through the Blackmagic A10 Mini. And then this is recorded, or this is going directly into my computer. So they're actually coming in separately from each other and then getting merged at the computer. So what that means in practical terms, because I know someone's going to say this at some point, I haven't had a chance to work with it. I just got it this morning. There could be some sync issues, and that's because the camera has a lot more latency coming out of its HDMI port than the USB mic most likely has. So fortunately, most apps that you stream with will allow you to apply a delay to the audio because it'll get to the computer first. And you can apply a delay to the audio so that they're back in sync. I have to do that testing at some point here as I work on the review, but this is just an opportunity to kind of give you a sense for what it sounds like initially. And as we get some more experience with it, we'll put that review together, and that'll be up on the channel here in not too long. So it looks like Rode has joined us for today's live stream. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us here. All right, let's talk a little bit about the whole thing. So let me just show you what we've got here. I've got another one. I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit. We've got the NT USB Mini here. And just the controls are super simple here. You can see we have a couple of LEDs, one to indicate when you're using the zero latency monitoring mode. And the way you do that normally is you'll press on the headphone volume button here. That'll turn on that zero latency monitoring. So what you're doing in that case is rather than wait for the audio to be captured by the microphone, sent via USB to your computer, and then sent back via USB into your headphones, it's actually just capturing the audio in the microphone and playing it back immediately. So you don't get that annoying sort of echo kind of effect that often you can get when you're doing recording to your computer. So that's the microphone itself. We'll come back to that, obviously. It comes with a USB cable, and this is a USB-C on this side to USB-A on the other side. And you can see, of course, it comes with a cable tie, which is nice if you're going to put it up on a stand. That can be helpful for those situations. And then you also have a 5/8 to 3/8 inch adapter, so you can fit this on various size microphone stands. Sorry, I was facing away from the microphone. I'm going to go ahead and move this back over. It's going to be in the shot. Apologize. Some of the interesting things about the NT USB. So it does have this kind of steel construction. This thing is substantial, much more so than I expected. It weighs in at, let's just double check here real quick. Looking under the specifications, it is 585 grams. It feels rock solid. Really pretty impressed with that. This is a all metal yoke here, it feels like. And it comes with this desk stand. This feels like it's made out of nylon, and then there's some rubber on the bottom that keeps it from sliding around. So that's pretty nice there. And it attaches magnetically, and in fact, it's a really nice strong magnet that holds it in place there. So my wife said that this is probably the most adorable microphone she's seen in a while, so there's that going for it as well. Top here appears to be the nylon construction, and then not sure what the grill is here, but the inside there's also evidently some additional material that acts as a pop filter. So one of the challenges with condenser microphones in particular, but actually all microphones can suffer from this if you're working up really close to them. When you say the letter P or B, they can have a tendency to pop. And in fact, if we come back here, so I'm about, I would say 10 centimeters from the microphone right now. And so if I say Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, we shouldn't be getting a lot of that kind of boo, that kind of popping sound that happens when sort of a puff of air, ooh, we just did get one there, when a puff of air comes out of your mouth and hits the capsule. And so it actually moves the capsule, not with sound waves, but with actual air moving the capsule, so you get a kind of a low frequency sort of boo sound. So the pop filter is working pretty nicely if you're working at the right distance. If you get up really close, Peter Piper picked, and then you're going to start getting the plosives. But if you're working at a reasonable distance, and I think really this is designed, I would say, for about 10 to 15 centimeters from the microphone capsule, based on the question and answers over on the Rode site. So, and that seems to be working pretty well from what I can hear here. So let's go back to the microphone here. What else can I show you here? Another thing that's nice, and this is one of the concerns I had before it arrived, and let's just show you here. If you were going to just use this, and actually this is really nice because it's super small, easy to transport if you're going to use it on a mobile basis, is you know, how this kind of sits kind of low to the desk. I'm actually pretty tall. We all sit well above the desk surface level, and so you also have this option to pull this off, and a little kind of rubber stopper pops out here. Let's pull that out. And then you have a 5/8 inch thread, so that'll fit on most standard US-based microphone stands, or you can use the 5/8 to 3/8 adapter here, and that'll fit on most European style microphone stands. So you've got options there to put it on a standard stand and get it up a little higher and a little bit closer to your mouth. Now, if you work with it a little farther away, of course, just give you a demonstration here. So if I move back a couple of feet here, you're obviously going to hear a lot more room sound, just like with any microphone. But getting it up a little closer, and it's nice that you can pop that stand off so easily and get it up closer using a regular mic stand if you wanted to do that as well. All right, in terms of what we see on the back here, just a couple of simple ports here. A USB-C port is the output, so with the included cable, you'll take the USB-C out, and then you'll go USB-A into your computer or tablet. Or you could use, well, obviously your tablet is not going to have a USB-A, but you'd have to get a USB-C to USB-C cable, and then you could go into a tablet as well. And then, of course, you have the headphone output. It's a 3.5 millimeter TRS output there. And that's another one of the things that I wondered about initially. Sometimes on the more affordable microphones, the USB microphones that have a headphone output, one of the challenges is you can't use high impedance headphones. The headphone amps just aren't good enough. They can't push enough current. And so that's one thing I was curious about on this. So I'm actually using today my Bear Dynamic DT880 Pros. These are rated at 250 ohms. So they're, I guess you could say they're kind of more audiophile type headphones. And this is the kind of headphones that stress headphone amplifiers like this. But I can say here that you don't even have to push the headphone volume very hard, and I can hear loud and clear. So it can drive these more audiophile quality headphones with a high impedance rating as well. So you could use earbuds if you wanted to, if that's what you've got, or you could use higher end headphones as well. And that's really impressive to me, is that they put some effort into that headphone amplifier to make it high quality. So you could use some good headphones with it. All right, let's jump over here. I'm going to go to the screen here for just a minute, and we'll take a look at the website just to make sure I covered. I guess one of the obvious questions that's going to come up is can I use this with my Mac, my PC? You know, does it work with this tablet or that tablet? And the answer is, as long as the product that you're trying to use it with, a computer or tablet, is USB class compliant, then it will work. So you can plug it into the iPad Pro that has a USB-C input. You can probably plug it into most Android tablets. You can plug it into any Mac, any PC, and it will work just fine. So the nice thing about that as well is that you're not going to need any drivers for that. It's just going to work, which is super nice. So all of our modern devices have that capability without needing any sort of special driver, which is cool. All right. Let's see here. What have I not covered? If you've got questions, go ahead and hit us in the comments or the chat here. Would be interested to hear what you have to say. Looks like we got 13 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. I don't know what the thumbs down is for. If you don't like me, that's one thing. If you don't like the mic, please tell us why. At least have the courage to do that. All right. Well, Mr. Bandrew, it's good to see you here. Dang, Curtis beating me to this. Bandrew, I'm sure you'll have a great review. I'm actually looking forward to it. So just running through some of the comments here really quickly. Planeta Semilla is saying, mine comes Friday. Good. Hope you enjoy it. Can't wait to see what you think about it. Excited. This is not the premiere feature. This is a live stream here. Yes, this does look a lot like the AKJ Lyra. And then you'd be interested in hearing this compared to an NT1. It's been your go-to mic. Yeah, different use cases. This would be a little simpler to use from the standpoint that you wouldn't need any sort of audio interface. But it seems to have a pretty, I have a fairly sibilant voice, so if you're hearing a lot of that sizzle on the high end, it's actually not, it's pretty good. From what I'm hearing right now, it's pretty good. Hopefully this isn't bleeding in. These are kind of semi-open back headphones, so hopefully they're not bleeding into what you're hearing here. All right, let's see what other comment. Just kind of combing through the comments here. Yes. Someone had a question about whether or not, Sean actually asked a question about whether or not Rode has any dynamic microphones, and indeed they do. The PodMic, Procaster, and the Podcaster. Also the Reporter. I actually have the Reporter as well. The Reporter is a good one for show floor things. Alex says, yuck, I don't want to wait. Tell me now. We got you, Alex. Gary, looking forward to see how the NT-USB Mini sounds compared to the NT-USB. So I'll have to get my hands on an NT-USB if we want to do that comparison. But what I'm hearing so far sounds pretty nice. And also, yes, I would also say that is one thing that I really appreciate about Rode microphones. On many of their products, not all of them, but many of them, there is a 10-year warranty. Now, I'm not sure about the USB Mini. Let's see. Rode, if you're still there, if you wanted to answer that for us. Yes, full disclosure as well. Rode sent this to me free of charge. I did not pay for this with my own money. I have to make that disclosure here. Let's see on the support data sheet, see if that tells us our warranty period. I'm not seeing it obviously here, but we will look into that and definitely include that in the review. All right, somebody gave us a thumbs down. Why, people? It's fine. Feedback is good. All right, we already talked about that. Joe says, Rode in the house. I hope Curtis liked the mic. It sounded pretty good so far. This is just our initial impressions here. Wonder if it works better for voiceover than video mic NTG via USB. Great question. So you have lots of options now. It's interesting to me that shotgun microphones are used for voiceover, but they definitely are. There are some voiceover artists who swear by the various shotgun microphones. The Sennheiser, of course, is a big one, but there are others as well. And so in any case, yeah, that's a worthwhile thing to look at as well. So I'll take a look at that. Yeah, so I want to address this again. So everybody cool off. There is a latency, and the latency is on my camera. So the camera is a Panasonic GH5 with video coming out of its HDMI port into a Blackmagic ATEM mini switcher. And then the microphone is USB directly into the computer. So the audio from the microphone is arriving to the computer much sooner than the video signal. My streaming application and most streaming applications have the ability to apply a delay to the audio so you can get them back in sync. But I wanted to illustrate here, this is what it's going to be like if you just plug it in, depending on which camera you're using. So there may not be as much latency, for example, if you're using a webcam. And in fact, I can probably switch over to that here. Nope, I can't switch over to it right now. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so that looks awful. That's what an inbuilt webcam looks like. And I don't know if there's any less latency there. Let's just do a test. You guys can tell me there if you saw less latency than we would see over here. Let's do the clap over here now. Just out of curiosity. So every camera is going to be a little bit different. So you're going to have to dial it in for your particular camera. But yes, USB audio is going to arrive at your computer before most camera signals will. And so in my Ecamm Live, which is the app I'm using for live streaming, I can apply a delay on the audio so that it will get back in sync. And so I'll have to do a little bit of testing here to kind of dial in that figure, how many frames I need it to be delayed. But we can definitely do that, and they'll be back in sync again. And Camel's View says that 100 milliseconds usually works for me. Yep, that's a good place to start. Benjamin's saying it's sounding great. Thank you for the review. This is, we will have a full review. This is really just the first impressions for now. Test 4, anyone watching from China? And then Camille's Way, sound is quite good. I set delay to 100 milliseconds in OBS Studio. So yeah, that's definitely, it's going to depend a little bit on your camera, but I think that's a good starting point. So thanks for that recommendation. Benjamin Rowland, hard to believe the quality for the price. So yeah, in the United States, this sells for $99 US. And actually, kind of to put this in context, my very first microphone, was it my first microphone? I think it actually was. It was a USB, it was the blue Snowball, the original one, the white Snowball. And I think they've come a long way. I think this is a lot better than the original Snowball, certainly. I haven't tried any of the newer ones, but in terms of what I'm hearing today here, I think I'm liking this one a little bit better there. All right, Shiznuts, of course I just bought the Samson G-Track Pro USB Studio mic. Now that is one hefty sucker. That is a bigger one. I don't know, I'm not sure how much that one runs, but yeah, it's one of the competitors here. What the recommended price? $99 US. Love the magnetic stand for sure. I agree. That is a really nice thing. And Kenny's looking at one for his iPad Pro. That should be a nice combination. So Rob asked a good question. Who is this microphone made for? Now, there's actually one thing that I need to, and maybe Rode can answer this for us. I'm on a Mac. If I wanted to do a podcast with multiple people, and I bought 2 of these, can we make that work? Can we record both of them at the same time since we're using USB? Now, the thing that's interesting, let's just switch back over here to the Mac. And let me show you my little, we'll come here into the system preferences, into sound. Input, I get to choose one. I don't know if it's even possible to choose more than one. So that's one outstanding question I have. Is it possible to record multiple of these to a single computer? That may not be the use case. I don't know, but it is a question I have. Not trying to be a critic here of that necessarily, but I think it's a worthwhile question. So you could obviously do a remote guest if you're Skyping in someone else, but could you actually connect 2 of these to your computer and record them at the same time? Outstanding question. I think really the use case for this, from my point of view, is so my daughter is a musician. She's studying music in university right now. She's really excited to put this to use as soon as I'm done reviewing it. For her, it becomes a really convenient way to be able to record vocals, to record other samples and things of that nature when she's doing composition. So that's one use case. I think for podcasters, certainly at least those that are recording solo or Skyping in other guests or co-hosts, I think it could work in that situation. People that are doing any sort of voiceover, it could work for as well. So there's going to be some film applications, some like audiobook type applications for that. So those are some of the use cases that come to mind immediately. You could even use it for Skype calls or things of that nature as well. So I think there are a lot of different use cases depending on what you're looking at. So good question. Shiznut says, nice price, nice price. Dave also says, nice price. So Gary says, it sounds as good as the bigger NT USB. So yeah, that's a fair question. How does it sound compared to the original NT USB? And I think that one of the facts on the website, we'll just pop back over to that here really quickly. Let's see here. What's the difference between the NT USB and the NTS USB Mini? The Mini is obviously more compact, has a built-in pop filter and a magnetic base that is easily detachable, 360 degrees swing mount, and more streamlined, straightforward controls, which makes it a great portable, easy-to-use option. The NT-USB features a removable pop shield, a locking thread base for mounting to an external shock mounts, along with a monitor mix control knob to fine-tune your mic input device output mix. Both microphones deliver pristine studio quality audio. So it really sounds like the NT-USB was a little bit more traditional from its approach. It had an external pop shield as opposed to an internal pop shield, a locking thread base, which is a little different here instead of the magnetic base, and then a control to change your monitoring mix. So you could get, it sounds like, I don't know if that was like direct audio plus USB audio and you could mix the two of them, because I've never used the original NT-USB, but in any case, it looks like there are a few different options there. That's how they kind of differ. All right. The thing is so small, I do a lot of traveling, looking for a decent mic for on-the-road voiceover work, tempted to try one or two. I agree. I think the challenge is this. So here's I don't know if there's any way I can illustrate this, but let me just show you. I've got this on this big desk stand. Now, if you're traveling, and I think one of the challenges that it's not impossible, not insurmountable, but you're going to have to find a way to get it up a little closer to your mouth. A big stack of books, maybe, I'm not sure. But some way you're going to want to get it up closer to your mouth if you're not going to want to if you don't want to carry around a stand. But there are a lot of compact stands you could get as well, like desktop stands and things of that nature. The one I'm using here, obviously, is not really a super portable one. It's got a really heavy base on it. But you'd probably want to look for something that could get it up close and make that a little easier. Interesting mag stand, kind of digging it. I'm with you. Not bad. Was debating the Pod Pro. Very good. All right. Rode has some input too on the use cases. They say it's made for a variety of uses: podcasting, live streaming, music recording. I think live streaming, you'll just want to dial in that, put a little bit of delay on the audio, because obviously you can hear I'm out of sync right now, but as soon as we dial that in, that should take care of that. We have a bunch of people who just came over from the Camera and Flask live stream. Sorry to compete today. That was not my intention, but I knew people would be excited about this, and this is one time I could talk about it today. So, and somebody did ask a question. Can I buy two and connect them both? Let's scroll down here. Okay. Let's see what Rode says here. It will work the same way as any other USB mic. If you're using a Mac, you can create an aggregate device which will combine both mics onto the same channel. Okay, so there is an option there. I don't know if that means you lose the ability to set the input level for each of the mics. Not really clear on that, and I'll have to look into how to set up the aggregate device. I know with Pro Tools, there's an aggregate device that gets set up when you install Pro Tools, and maybe it's a similar type thing. But thank you, Rode, for clarifying that. All right. This is a good question, Bangs Naughty Bits. On the included stand, how are desk vibrations and things transmitted? Well, I have a little bit of a problem. That'll definitely be in the final review. I promise you that. I think what's happening there in that case, and actually let's switch over here to this camera. So this is a kind of a hard nylon type thing. And then inside here, there's this sort of rubber fitting, and that sits between the magnet and the stand, or the yoke and the stand. And it provides a little bit of damping, so you can see there's a little bit of play here. So, but yet the magnet pulls it back pretty nicely. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to do that in the final review to test to see how well it isolates from people tapping on the table, because that is one of the challenges for sure. Is a lot of times I find, especially people that just aren't used to working with microphones, guests on podcasts, things of that nature. Or if you're gaming and you're streaming your gaming, the gameplay, you've got stuff going on your keyboard and your mouse or whatever controls you're using. And so the question is how much of that gets transmitted. And I think that's a fair question that we'll have to address in the review coming up here. Fernando, what software do you use for showing the questions on screen in the live stream? I love the way it looks. This is Ecamm Live. It's Mac only, and I think it's sort of a subscription model, but it's been working pretty nicely for me. How is the round trip latency if we don't use the direct monitor? That'll have to test in the final review as well, but I think you're definitely gonna hear it. I think that's why they put the direct monitoring in there. So, Carlos, the reason I don't know if you were here when I described this, but there is some latency coming off the camera. So the camera takes longer to get to the computer than the audio does, and I can dial in. This is just a first impressions, but when I do the final review, we will dial in a delay on the audio so it's perfectly in sync with the camera again. All right, Sven says, imagine that with zero latency Bluetooth earbuds option, perfect video conference setup. That would be pretty cool. So here's the thing. There's a fellow here by the name of Bandrew who has a channel on YouTube that many of you have probably heard of called Podcastage. What he does is that during his review, he throws the box. So that one's for you, Bandrew. Hope that worked okay. And I am very much looking forward to your review on this here. All right. To answer Samuel's question, yes, there is real-time monitoring. Somebody here says, just saw the Zoom H3 VR recorder. Have you reviewed this or any plans? I have not reviewed it. I suppose if there's enough requests, we can do that. All right, Sven loves it already. Imaginary love. Yusuf, hi from Iraq. All right. Yes, 3.5 millimeter the back for zero latency monitoring. We covered that. So a Lightning to USB-C can connect to an iPad and the GarageBand app will hear it? Yes. The answer is yes. So you're going to need that little adapter that goes Lightning to USB, and then you plug the other end of the USB cable into that. And yes, GarageBand should see it, no problem, because an iPad is class compliant. Sam is asking, NT-USB Mini versus NT-USB. I don't know the answer to that yet. I haven't used the NT-USB, the original, so we'll see about doing something along those lines. Rode, if you want to send one over, I'd be happy to include that in the comparison. I think they're both going to sound pretty similar, be my guess, but I'm not sure. All right, somebody here. Tuba Dylan. It reminds me of the Blue Raspberry. I wonder how the sound compares. Fine question. All right. Kevin, you're not seeing any frequency response charts on the site. Does it have a similar sound to the NT1 or NT1A? So there's actually a data sheet. So if you go onto the site under support, click on the data sheet. And in fact, we will show that to you right now. Let's just switch over. On the data, oh, you're right, no frequency response chart. We're just seeing a polar pattern graph here. So yeah, Rode, if we could get a frequency response chart, that'd be really great. We would love to see that as well. And I do have an NT1A, not an NT1, and we could do a comparison to that at some point here. Kenny's got the original NT-USB and loves it. Okay, on this one, thank you, Rode, for answering. The extended warranty is 2 years on the NT-USB Mini. So thanks for that. All right, what's this pickup pattern for that mic like? I quite like my AT2020's reject sound from the back, enough for me to be able to use to desktop speakers without them picking it up. Yes, this is a polar, the polar pattern on this is cardioid, very much like the AT2020s. In fact, let's just show you here on the screen. You'll see down here, cardioid. So it rejects from the back, picks up some on the sides, and most sensitive, of course, here on the front. So that's what you're looking at there. So yeah, it would be very similar, I would think, to the AT2020, which is also cardioid as I understand it. Oh, okay. So here's some feedback for Rode. Would be nice to see a USB and XLR combo mic from Rode like the ATR 2100 or Samson Q2U. I agree, that would be cool. So you have both the best of both worlds. It'll be a little more expensive, but the idea in that case is you could use it as a USB microphone, or you could take an XLR cable out and feed it into a recorder, audio recorder, or audio interface, or things of that nature. So kind of get the best of both worlds there. All right. Another request here for a frequency response chart. I think that's good. Please rotate to give off-axis performance. Okay, we'll do that right now. So here I am at the front of the mic. We're going to go ahead and turn it off to the side. So I'm now off to the side of the microphone at 90 degrees. And then we'll keep turning it. I'm now 180 degrees to the back of the microphone at the same distance, coming back to 90 degrees. Here we are at 90 degrees and now coming back on axis right here at 0 degrees. So there's a little bit of an off-axis informal test. I think we've seen our friend Bandrew do that in some cases. Thumbs down is maybe because of the audio latency. Someone not listening to what was said about it could be. Please tap on the mic stand and table. Well, Thomas, I would, so one thing, I'm not using the included stand right now because I wanted to get it up closer to me. That will be in the final review, but here's some taps on the table. So that at least speaks to what the yoke is doing. But I think really a lot of the isolation is going to be in the stand itself here and the rubber fitting, which you actually pull that rubber fitting out when you put it on a separate stand, a third-party stand. So I think that I will include that in the final review, but we're not going to get a lot of that right now. How does a mic sound when you're 4 feet away while typing on Cherry MX Blues and throwing the box? You know, Bandrew, I've always, never mind, I'll ask you later. But here's typing on a keyboard. It's an Apple keyboard, just so that you're aware. They don't tend to be extraordinarily loud. And this is it's this one. It's not the MacBook Pro, the kind of the funky whatever they went to, the different style. It almost had no throw in it. So there's some keyboard testing. I already threw the box. 4 feet away. That's in your review, Bandrew. I can't steal all your thunder. All right, just bought an NT2A used from Long and McQuaid. That's a good mic. I hope you enjoy that one. All right, KSL, much less latency. Definitely much. Okay, so we're going back to the webcam. So yeah, there's definitely less latency with the webcam. So that is one thing to consider. So streaming software will compensate for that, whatever the latency is on your camera. So webcams will be a lot faster, but of course they look a lot more crunchy, something a bit like this. Not a good look. Same lighting, everything. All right. Yeah, GH5 has something like a half a second, so built-in webcam. Joan tells you to say that Curtis Judd is a nice man. Well, thanks, Joe. Likewise. And Sam is coming at us from Switzerland. Welcome. Joan tells worlds are colliding. Hope that doesn't hurt. I just put my cans on and it sounds pretty damn good. Well, that's good. Darren is from British Columbia. Do you know if these specs in the spec sheet are seeded to be updated anytime soon? There isn't a frequency response graph. So there we go. Another request for frequency response. Cheap mics are getting a lot better. Does it sound amazing for the price from, oh, did you hear that? Was that a plosive there? I think we just got a plosive. And so, yeah, there is a headphone amplifier output, but no line level output or no mic level output in terms of analog. So no, it's not really made for that, unfortunately. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, it's smaller as a result, but no, there's no analog output really other than the headphone jack. Sounding good there. Yes, multiple USB mics is a road of pain and anger and suffering. So there's a job to be done if you do want to use multiple. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. Later, can you check the background noise isolation? Absolutely. And then here's a question, or a note that seems more like a Mac problem, to be honest. Could be. I don't know. I don't do audio stuff with Windows. I didn't see any stickers in here, in the box, in mine. So I don't know. I don't know. Bandrew also says, you can make an aggregate device in advanced settings, however, with the same mic. Unless they have a unique ID, you might not be able to set two of them up. Oh, okay. Good to know. Shiznuts says, the G-Track Pro is $129.99, weighs in a whopping 3.52 pounds. Does have a lot of settings and even an instrument analog input. So it's kind of a different setup there. Definitely heavier for sure. Okay. Aggregate devices, got it. Look at Audio MIDI setup and create an aggregate device or use Rogue Amiga's loopback. Okay, so it's in the Audio MIDI panel. I can definitely do that. All right. What is the bit rate of this microphone? So it is recording a sample rate of 48 kilohertz at 24-bit word length. So hopefully that answers what you're looking for. Eric says that aggregated device on Mac is the hell. All right. All right, so we've got lots of advice on how to set up an aggregate device. What are your thoughts on condenser mics in most podcasters, usually crappy recording spaces? I always recommend dynamic, but I'm happy to be corrected if that's wrong. I think partly it's a condenser can work. If it's a really bad space, then yeah, you probably want to go with a dynamic. But if it's an okay space, you can probably get away with a condenser microphone. But I think mic technique becomes a little bit of a consideration. So you're going to need to be up pretty close on it. I don't think you need to be right up on it necessarily like that, but you don't want to put a lot of space between you and the mic, because that just gives an opportunity for more of the reflected sound to come back and get into the microphone capsule. So I think this one is actually probably doable in moderately decent spaces. Doesn't have to be perfectly, obviously I have some treatment here. I've got a rug behind me on the floor. I've got a bass trap there. I've got a bass trap here. I've got bass traps in the corner, so on and so forth. Some above me as well. So this may not be the best scenario here, but in the review, we can definitely take it into a not so great space and just see what it sounds like. Joe, thank you for the fist bump. Pair character throwing down, saying thank you. Do you think of the NT2A as any better than a USB microphone? Well, I think, Darren, what you're looking at there is the potential, yes, for it to be better. That's going to depend, I think, in a large way. It's going to depend on a few things. So the microphone capsule design itself and the electronics of the microphone will be one factor, the preamplifier that you're using, and the analog to digital converters that you're using. I did get another plosive there. Was that just me, or did you guys hear that as well? So in any case, there are a variety of different factors. So yeah, I think the NT2A is a much more expensive microphone. I think more engineering went into it. Well, I don't know how much engineering went into it relative to this, but what I can say is that I think that was really designed for, really, if you're looking back at the NT2A, that was really designed for musicians. And so they put a lot of effort into voicing it right and getting all the important factors worked out nicely. So, obviously the self-noise was going to be a factor there, and Rode does a very nice job with that typically. They also do a nice job with voicing. I think what I'm seeing from Rode a little bit more recently, at least certainly on the shotgun microphones, is that I think their first generation of shotgun microphones, at least the higher end ones, the NTG3 and the 8, had a really kind of bassy, broadcasty sound to them, and I think they're great microphones. A lot of people love that sound. In fact, the NTG3 to me sounds an awful lot like the Sennheiser MKH416. Not quite as the high end isn't quite the same as the Sennheiser, but the low end definitely has that really rich, nice low end on it, and a lot of people love that sound. And I think you'll get a similar type thing on the NT2A. But what I've seen now is at Rode's newer mics, so the NTG5, which I actually really like, a lot is a much more natural voicing to it. So it doesn't have quite as much bass emphasis. It just sounds a lot more natural. So if you're trying to get a more natural sound, then the NTG5 is a good one. So, and I think the NT2A was made back in the era when their engineering was. It definitely has a rich sound to it, especially a proximity effect that you'll get the sense for if you're doing vocals and you're up close, so on and so forth. So anyway, I think it is, definitely a better microphone. All right, Joe, talk to you later. Thanks for dropping by. The mic is very reliant on the environment it is used in. This is John here. So desktop may not be the best. I think that's a great point. I think that the location where you record does make a huge, huge difference, and that's an important factor. I think microphone technique is part of it as well. And in fact, I'm going to probably move up just a little closer and just turn it off to an angle a little bit here, something like that. So not too much off, just to see if I can. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper. So I was getting some plosives here, and actually maybe that was just another one. So yeah, you got to be kind of careful there. I was getting closer in there. I was probably more like 7 centimeters from the mic. But in any case, I think mic technique is part of it, and I definitely think the environment makes a substantial difference as well. Yeah, travel tripod and adapter would definitely do the trick if you're looking for something to get it up a little closer to your mouth. Another potential, I've heard some voiceover talent do something more like this. It looks like it's right on my nose. It's actually still about 10 centimeters from me, but they're capturing, it depends on the timbre of your voice, but some voiceover artists will do something like this. So they're not going to get as much of the sibilance, and they're going to pick up more of the kind of resonance of their head and their nasal cavity. That works for some voices, not for all voices, obviously. I tend to have a fairly nasally voice, but all right. Thomas says, slightly chesty sound of NT2A without the muffly character of SM7B. Really impressive. All right. Fair enough. Is there a gain control on board? No. The gain is actually set within your operating system. So within the Mac, I can just show you here really quickly. Pop over here to the Mac. Open up this system preferences. We're going to pop into sound. On an input here, I have the control right here. So the input volume is controlled here. You can see as I dial it down. You may have just gotten a pop there. I apologize, or at least I got it. Can you hear me? Check, check, 1, 2, 3. And right there in the center is about where we're going. So you control that from your computer. All right. Hey, Super Chat. Thanks so much for Photo Boy. Appreciate all the info you give us. I'm a photographer. Getting more and more video gigs, and your channel has saved me a ton. Bravo for a great channel. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Okay. Rode also mentioned the DS1 is a good desk stand to use with the NT USB Mini, so they got an option there. Dawson James, we will check that in the final review, again, because I'm using a third-party stand here at the moment. Didn't have another one on hand. Booth Junkie uses a shotgun as a main microphone. Yes, definitely he does, and he sounds fantastic on that. He's got a voice that sounds good on almost any microphone. Like Doug Audio does. Podcastage. Bandrew is asking, does each NT USB have a unique identifier to allow for 2 minis to work with the aggregate device? And they say, we'll get back to you on that one. And Bandrew says thank you, because he's that kind of guy. All right. Here's the sound at 12 inches. That's a request there from Thomas. So I guess, yeah, it's about 12 inches right there. 1 foot. And then here we are back at about 10 centimeters. I threw it. Podcastage rocks. He threw it. 48 kilohertz, 24-bit signal to noise ratio test. Yes, that will be coming in the review. If the mic is USB-C, that means you could use USB-C to USB-C on the iPad Pro. That is correct. That would be so cool. And the answer is yes, it is that cool. So you can do that. No, I'm not. So Bang's Naughty Bit says that I'm getting trademark infringed everywhere. I just wanted to be clear that that was really an homage to Bandrew, not trying to to steal his trademark. You'll notice that I will not do that in my reviews typically. So, all right. You watch Iron Film, David, too. And so unfortunately, I did not get a sticker. And Rode says that they can get us an NT USB. Great. That would be awesome. Wow. Here's the contractually obligated payment for conducting a box throw. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Paid sponsorship for the Podcastage channel. I think 90% of you are probably already subscribed, but if you're not, you should be. And no, there wasn't any sort of contract. I think it sounds better than the Blue Yeti Nano, though there does seem to be quite a bit of air in the highs just for my ears. Yeah, I think there is definitely some. But on the other hand, it's not some condenser microphones. There's a period, it seemed like in the 2000s to even up to 2015, a lot of condenser mics seem to have a lot of air, a lot of high frequency stuff going on. And man, on some voices, that just was not a great choice. All right. Johnny, what recorder do you recommend for one shotgun mic and also hooks onto the camera? I would say my first choices on that, I don't know what your budget is, but Zoom F6 would be a good one. Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2 is a good one. Those are my first two choices. All right. Does the Rode pick up a lot of background noise or not? That'll be in our next test, but we also turned it around a little bit so you could get a sense for how well it rejects the sound. And we'll do a little bit more of that in the final review. When I was looking for my YouTube mic, I watched a lot of your videos. Thank you for the reviews, you bet. Turbo Hot, thank you. To record vocals, which is the best microphone? The Fifine K670 or the ATR 2500 USB? I'm afraid I have not used either one of those. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer to that. I bet you that Andrew's reviewed at least one of those. I don't know if he's done the Fifine or Fifine? 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 I'm not sure how to say that. Pick me here. Don't ignore the most important question, Curtis. Okay. I recently upgraded from the Blue Yeti to the AT4040. So many videos promoting the Blue Yeti as good enough, but once I actually switch, it's been like night and day. It can make a huge, huge, huge difference. Would you use it for voiceover? I think you definitely could. Carlos, good to hear from you. I've been watching your Canon C500 videos, and it hasn't been good for me because it's burning a hole in my pocket now. So I'm not going to talk any more about that, but it's great to have you here. We do have an update on using two. Depending on your DAW, you can actually record each mic to a separate channel, great for post-production. So I'd have to look at how you do that, but that's probably setting up the aggregate device using the audio MIDI settings on the Mac. So yeah, I'll have to look into that, and we will definitely get back to that. What would be the equivalent XLR version Rode has to this mic? Good question. Rode, do you want to answer that one? I would think the NT1 is pretty close in terms of voicing, certainly. I don't know if there's one less expensive than that would also have an XLR mic, but that's the first one that comes to mind. Rode microphones, sorry, we sent all the stickers to Podcastage. Andrew? I don't know what to say. Okay. Is the Shure SM7B the best voiceover mic? I'm just about to go to voiceover school and I use Max. There's something very important to say here. There's no such thing as a best mic. I hate to break anyone's heart, but the reality is it depends on your voice. And it depends on the use cases, what you're trying to do. Most voiceover artists actually use condenser microphones, not dynamic microphones, for most of their work. So in any case, SM7B is not a bad microphone. Don't get me wrong. I have one and I use it typically for most of my live streaming, and I love the sound of it on my voice, but it's a dark microphone. That is to say, you're not going to get as much of the high frequency content from voices. And so if somebody has a dark voice, it's not necessarily a good fit because it'll just start to sound kind of woofy. You'll get a lot of bass, but you won't get a lot of articulation, and it's not a great sound in those circumstances. So it really depends on your voice. And again, most voiceover is done, from my point of view, with condenser microphones of some sort in an acoustically treated place. So definitely something to consider there, Alan. But it's a great question. And I wish you the best in voiceover school, by the way. Would you use this for voiceover? I think you could. Yeah. Voiceover on a budget. Voiceover on the move. Mobile. So Gary has the original and loves it. Every mic you use sounds terrific to me. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate that. And every visual that you create. I just saw the piece that you did with the Canon C500 with the white cat on the bed and the window, the dynamic range test. Beautifully done, by the way. And wow, that's an impressive camera. And I don't want to talk about it anymore because I want to buy one and I shouldn't buy one. May I have it afterwards, needing a mic for podcasting? We'll see what we can do. All right. Well, we need to wrap things up here. I want to just do a quick scan here, see if we have anything else. Are you, let's see, are you running the mic into the Zoom live track that you reviewed recently? No, this is a USB microphone, so this is going directly into the computer. Worth or not, hello to you. Recently bought the NTG5 in part because of your review and absolutely love it. I agree, that is a fantastic mic. Oh, a Rode NTK, great microphone for my voice, streams, and all YouTube needs. That is a beautiful mic, and it does fit some people's voices very nicely. I've long actually wanted to try that one. Howard just clicked in, but it sounds great. Does Rode have an ambisonic mic or any plans? They do. They have the NT SF1, and in fact, it's one of the, I think the two main ones I think of are the Rode NT F1 and the Sennheiser Ambio. So yes. Sorry, the latency is bugging you. Yes, I did describe that to a couple of people. So we intentionally did that. The audio from the microphone is getting to the computer before the camera is. And we did a test here where we just went back to the horrible, horrible camera. In fact, let's see if we can pull that up just a little bit. There's probably less latency now, so we're more in sync at this point, but we have a horrible image from a webcam. So that's what that looks like. So I'm going to switch back here. But in my streaming app, I can apply a delay on the audio so we can get them back in sync, and I will do that. This is just a first impressions video. So, Carlos, will you be testing the sound on the new Canon C500 Mark II? You know, I'd really like to do that. And if you keep putting those videos out, I'll probably buy one and do it, yes. But or I could come visit you in Fargo and test it out there. Hey, welcome, Kevin. It's good to have you here. Looks like a talk show desk mic, very classic style. It does not do 32-bit and it is 48-bit, 24-bit. Sorry, 48 kilohertz, 24-bit is the sample rate and the word length. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining in and for your comments and input. We will be back with you with a full review here within the next couple of weeks. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put those down in the comments below or the chat, and we'll be sure to get those into the video as well. Get out there and make something that sounds great. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.